Hey, it's finally here. My final part of my December 2020 wrap up. Then I'm all caught up just in time to do my January wrap up. Right, I apologise straight off. I'm filming somewhere that's really boring, nothing at all to do with books. This is my office. But where I normally film, there's a dog in the garden next door that's just constantly barking all day, and it just would have been no good. So let's crack on with the books. So the first book I want to tell you about is The Key to Fear by Kristen Cast. Now, you get bonus points if you recognise this author's name. She actually was the co-author of the amazing YA vampire series, the House of Night series. I loved it so much, that series. So as soon as I saw The Key to Fear on NetGalley as an ARC, with Kristen Cast's name on it, I was like, yep, sign me up. I am all for that book. And I was like super excited when I got approved for it. So The Key to Fear is like a dystopian, utopian type thing where a virus has spread throughout the globe and, just killed off so many people. Kind of sounds familiar, really. And so this kind of government/society type thing called the Key took over running society. And they don't just put the rules in place, they also monitor the technology that people use. They assign career paths based on people's skills and stuff. So it's very much a kind of controlled society. Now, the Key's complete motto in life is no touching today for a safer tomorrow. Obviously aimed at if we don't kind of touch people, or if we keep social distancing, then the virus can't spread if anything ever comes around again. And by no touching, they literally mean no touching. So babies are created by, the relevant bits being taken from the parents, and then they're grown in a lab and then handed over to the parents when they finish cooking. And even like hugging people when they're upset or whatever, that is a no-no. So our main character, Elodie, is a teenage girl. I think she's about 16. She is a total rule follower. She thinks the Key is amazing. She's got this 10-year career plan. She's a nurse in some kind of long-term care facility. And yeah, so she is all for the rules. Then she happens to meet Aidan. Aidan is the complete opposite. He hates the rules. He doesn't believe in this no touching stuff, and he hates the Key, and he hates the fact that he's been assigned this certain job. And so they meet, and gradually Elodie starts to discover secrets about the Key that kind of suggest they're not exactly who they think, who she thinks they are, and that things aren't as great as she thinks. And so she kind of gets dragged in sort of unwillingly initially into like the rebel cause. And is the book predictable? Yes. Is the relationship between Aidan and Elodie predictable? Yes, totally. However, was this book fun and exactly what I wanted? Definitely. It was exactly what I wanted. It was what I expected. It's what I was in the mood for, and it delivered. 5 stars easy. Next up is Hijab and Red Lipstick by Yusra Imran. It is definitely own voices. Now, the main girl in this, Sarah, she is half British or half English and half Egyptian, and they live in England initially. Her dad has got some quite strict kind of rules around Islam and what his children are allowed to do and things like that. However, it gets 100 times worse when he relocates the whole family to the Gulf. I think it's Saudi, where they go. I think it is Saudi Arabia. And it just gets horrendous because his kind of very strict conservative rules just increase tenfold, to the point where the girls of the family, Sarah and her sister, they're not even allowed out of the house without permission. He tells them what to wear, he tells them who to speak to. They're completely forbidden from speaking to anybody who's got like a more Western approach to things, like dresses a bit more Western or got Western ideals. And so it's a very, very, very strict, you know, number of teenage years for Sarah, and very difficult coming from seeing other people living quite free lives to then she's being totally restricted. Now, there are trigger warnings for this book. There's rape, sexual assault, I think paedophilia, and definitely like mental and emotional abuse, and possibly some physical abuse. I can't remember if there was. But yeah, it's not an easy read. It's extremely interesting, but it's not easy in the slightest. But I think the way it's written is going to appeal to more people than if it was, you know, just a very solid non-fiction memoir about a girl's experiences in the same types of situations. And I think lots of people will like the way that Sarah was, even though she was being very restricted, she was trying her hardest to, I guess, discover who she was as a person and to try and find her own way through life and not just be completely ruled by her dad. It's a really great book. I gave this one 4 stars. Next, we've got Final Girls by Riley Sager. This is a thriller that follows 2 women. Now, they called the Final Girls, there was initially 3 of them, because they had separately been involved in massacres, basically, and they were the sole survivors, these 3 women, out of the separate massacres. I've not done a good job of explaining that at all. Anyway, so, the 3 Final Girls, one is murdered right at the start of the book. And we don't know how or why initially, we just know she's been murdered. The second one, Sam, who's been a sort of recluse for many years, she's kept out of the media spotlight and stuff, she randomly turns up on the third one, Quincy, at her doorstep. And so she's kind of like trying to put herself into Quincy's life, and things start happening with Quincy where I would say some of it is gaslighting, very mental and emotional manipulation. Is Sam involved somehow in the murder? Is she involved in all the weird stuff that's happening to Quincy? Or is somebody out there literally targeting these 3 final girls? And so, yeah, it's very... it's not action-packed. I found this to be very, like, a slow build-up, where Quincy's discovering things happening and then you never know quite what's happened. I did really, really enjoy this book in the end. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as Home Before Dark, which is the only other Riley Sager book I've read. But yeah, definitely a 4 star. And then part of the Horror-a-thon Christmas edition readathon, I read Nosferatu by Joe Hill. This was actually the group book. I was quite excited because I am on some horror book groups on Facebook, and Joe Hill gets mentioned quite a bit, and I've never read anything by him before, but I didn't enjoy this book at all. It was very, very long and very, very windy, the road to get to the point, and I don't do well with books like that. I'll be honest, I can't even properly tell you what this book is about because I couldn't follow it at all. I was just getting lost. My mind was wandering. It was just a little too bizarre for me to follow. There's a guy called Manx who kind of kidnaps children and takes them to this Christmas land, but it's not a fun Christmas land. I don't even really know how to explain it, but it's like a horrible place, and these children gradually lose like their humanity, so they become horrible, like horror children, basically. I don't know how to explain it. So then there's this girl called Victoria. She somehow, as a child, discovers this portal of how to get to Christmas land, but she escapes from Manx. And then years later, when she's an adult and she's got her own child, Manx escapes from a secure hospital somewhere and takes Victoria's child to Christmas land, and she's trying to rescue him. And people think that she's gone crazy. Yeah, I can't say much more about this book. I ended up giving it 2 stars, and I'll be honest, it was probably 1.5. And then because I've not had enough of the pandemic yet, I read a book called 20 Minutes to Go Viral by Daniel Hurst. And this was like a really super micro-focused kind of book all about an initial virus outbreak. So how one person starts with it and then they spread it to several, then each of them spread it to several, and how it just kind of runs through a community. It was really great how it kind of kept changing perspective. So you started with the first guy who had the virus, and then the perspective moved to the next person who caught it, etc., etc. And then you also kind of saw the initial kind of panic of people when they started finding people unwell or dead. And it was just really, really interesting. I've never come across anything that's so focused on such a small part before. It really was like the whole book was just that, the outbreak, and it was just really, really quick to read. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Now, this author, when I've looked, he seems to have done like a series of these mini thriller type things. They're all 20 minutes to something, and I think I will definitely go and have a look at some of the others after reading this one. I'm really enjoying it. Then I read Sleepless by Louise Mumford. This was a psychological thriller. We follow Tia, who's an insomniac, and she ends up signing up to this kind of medical research trial on a cure for insomnia. And it takes place on this remote island. So all the participants in the trial head to this island, and they're just basically cut off from the rest of the world whilst they're doing the trial. And it sounds scary or chilling enough anyway to be cut off like that. But things start gradually getting worse, such as Tia then discovers she's not allowed to leave her bedroom without permission. All her belongings are taken away and locked up in like a secure locker somewhere. And then, like, you know, she's got no phone signal at all, and any calls she makes to her mum, where she's only allowed like 2 a week, they are monitored. And so it starts getting really creepy and weird things start happening, but that's it. They're just stuck on this island with no way of contacting anyone, no way of getting off the island, and then things just get 10 times worse. It sounded like a really, really great concept. I thought this would be really interesting, but in the end, I don't know, there was just something about it. It didn't quite, I don't know, it just didn't quite grab me enough, and I ended up only rating it 3 stars, which is a shame because I was really anticipating it to be much higher. And I have absolutely no idea why right now. I was trying to write the actual ARC review earlier, and I was just sat looking at a blank screen because I can't say why it didn't really click, but... And finally, we've got The Choice by Alex Lake. I listened to this as an audio book and I really enjoyed it. I thought the narrators did a great job. What I particularly liked, that sometimes I've struggled with audiobooks, is when the voice doesn't match the character. And I don't know if that's like a very subjective thing that people might, you know, prefer certain narrators, but I always need the voice to sound like I would imagine the character when I'm reading the story, if that makes sense. So we've got Matt and Annabelle, a married couple, and they've got children. Matt leaves the children in the back of the car whilst he nips into the shop, and he's trying to keep an eye out the shop window. He's only getting like, you know, 6 things. He's just nipped in for something for tea on the way home. However, when he gets out the shop, the car's gone with the children also gone. So him and Annabelle are trying to figure out what's happened. They get this ransom message from the kidnapper, and the kidnapper doesn't want money or anything like that. The kidnapper wants Annabelle. He wants Annabelle to exchange herself for the children, and nobody knows why. Like, why on earth would the kidnapper want the mother and not a load of money, or, you know, whatever. So the whole story then, the whole plot then, is about finding out why, and we get to look at like Annabelle's past and Matt's past, and I really liked how this kind of threw possible suspects at you. So it's a play a scene from the past, and you get in to meet people they've met in the past, and there's like little things where you start thinking, oh, So maybe it's them, because they've got a reason to do this. And there was about 4 or 5 different people that you think, oh, hang on, they could be the kidnapper. So I really liked how this book kind of just presented you with all these options and then just smashed it all away at the end because I did not see it coming, and that's how I know it's a really good thriller. I've said this before, I'm really shit at this game, but if I don't see it coming and I'm really like amazed by the twist, then yeah, it's going to get rated highly for me. So I really enjoyed this, and it was 4 stars in the end. And that is all the books I read in December. So, yeah, it was an alright month. Some on the very low end and some 5 stars. So it's okay. Right, thank you very much for watching this video. I will hopefully see you in a few days with my February TBR, because it's that time of month again. So please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will see you all soon. Bye.